Hey everyone, this story is about Damon, a quiet black teenager pushed to his breaking point after years of bullying and silence. It's a powerful journey through pain, anger, and finally, being heard. If you want to hear more real stories that matter, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join the community. Your support means a lot. The bell rang, but no one noticed him. Just like always, Damon slipped through the crowded hallway like a shadow, his hood up, eyes low. He wasn't one of the jocks who high-fived their way through the day. He wasn't a nerd buried in textbooks or a loudmouth craving attention. He was just Damon, the quiet kid, the one who didn't speak unless spoken to, the one teachers often forgot to call on, the one no one sat next to at lunch, not because they hated him, but because they simply didn't see him. He was invisible, and he was used to it, until they started pushing. It began small, like it always does. A trip in the hallway. A crumpled piece of paper thrown at his head. A laugh when he dropped his tray. The words, "You good, lil' man?" Always followed by that fake grin and backslap that wasn't really friendly. He didn't react. He never did. That was his power. He endured. "Why don't you ever fight back?" his sister, Ayanna, had once asked. She was 12, 2 years younger, with eyes too wide for her face and questions too big for the world. They were close. She was his person, his calm. "I'm not like them," Damon had replied quietly. But that was before they found out about Ayanna, before they started making her a part of the jokes, before they touched her. That morning had started like any other. Gray sky, the sound of sneakers on concrete. Damon walked Ayanna to school as he always did, earbuds in one ear, always watching the sidewalk, always alert. At school, they went different ways. She waved. He nodded. Third period. The whispers started. Someone had seen something. A commotion near the lockers by the stairwell. An ambulance. Blood. When he reached the nurse's office, Ayanna was gone. He heard it from the assistant principal. She fell. Said she was pushed. "We're contacting your mother." No names. No investigation. Damon clenched his fists until his knuckles turned white. That night, Ayanna lay in the hospital, unconscious. A small bandage on her head. Doctors said she'd recover, but it would take time. No one visited. No one apologized. At school, they carried on like nothing happened. Damon didn't sleep. He didn't cry. He just sat and changed. Damon didn't return to school the next day, or the day after that. No one asked why. No one called. Not teachers, not counselors, not even the assistant principal who had watched him shake with rage outside the nurse's office. They didn't care. They never did. He sat in the hospital next to Ayanna's bed, holding her small hand, listening to the beeping of the heart monitor. She hadn't woken up yet. The doctors said it was a mild concussion and swelling from where her head hit the tile. She was lucky, they said. Lucky. They said it like it meant something. Like trauma had a scale. Damon stared at her, his fists clenched in his lap. He remembered the last time she laughed. Real, belly-deep laughter. When she beat him at Mario Kart and teased him for getting too serious. They broke that. Back at school, the halls felt colder. The boys who pushed Ayanna, Dax, Jaden, Malik, were back to their usual games. They walked like nothing had happened. Jaden even posted a stupid meme about accidents with a laughing emoji. Damon saw it. He said nothing. The following Monday, he returned. No words, just presence. He walked through the front doors in his black hoodie, hair pulled back tight, headphones draped around his neck like always. Except today, he didn't play music. He watched. Every hallway. Every face. He was a ghost, but now a ghost with a purpose. In the cafeteria, laughter roared from a corner table. Dax was there, showing someone a video on his phone. Damon didn't need to hear it. He knew. It was Ayanna. The video of the push. His chest burned. He sat at the far end of the room, alone, tray untouched. He didn't eat. He didn't blink. He just waited. That day passed without a word. But eyes noticed him now, like prey senses the presence of a predator. The hallways got quieter when he walked through. The next day, it began. The first fight. In the locker room. Jaden. Damon didn't say anything. He just moved. Jaden's face hit the locker with a metallic clang. Blood splashed across his shirt. Screams echoed, but no one stepped in. Not this time. Damon walked out calmly, fists red. Security never found him. The second. Malik, outside behind the gym. He didn't even have time to speak. Damon came from the shadows. 2 punches, one to the ribs, one to the jaw. Malik dropped like dead weight. This time, someone filmed. But no one posted it. By the third day, everyone was afraid. Not because he was big, not because he was loud, because he was quiet and covered in blood that wasn't his. And now, he was walking through the hallway, his hoodie soaked with dried red, his boots leaving footprints. The crowd parted, and at the end of the corridor, like some pathetic king in a crumbling castle, was Dax, the one who laughed the loudest, the one who pushed her. He saw Damon coming, and for the first time, he looked scared. Dax backed up as Damon approached, his hands trembling as he dropped his phone. The hallway fell into a hushed silence. It was like the school itself had stopped breathing. Yo, chill, bro. Dax stammered, his voice cracking. It was just a joke. We didn't mean nothing. I didn't push her, it wasn't even like that. Damon didn't stop walking. Each step was deliberate, heavy, the way soldiers march when they've already decided how this ends. His hoodie was stained with streaks of brownish red. Jaden's blood. Malik's blood. The hallway smelled of sweat and silence and something metallic. Dax's back hit a locker. There was nowhere left to run. Students watched from the sides, frozen. Some with phones held up, but most too stunned to move. They had laughed with Dax for months. Now they watched him tremble like a child. Damon stopped just inches away. For a moment, he said nothing. Just stared. No shouting. No theatrics. Then, quietly, "You pushed her." Dax shook his head rapidly. No, man, I swear it was Malik. I didn't even." "You laughed." That stopped Dax cold. His mouth hung open. He didn't have an answer to that. Damon's fist clenched. He raised it, and then paused. He was breathing hard, trembling, the rage in him like fire just beneath the skin. But this time, he didn't swing. He leaned in close, so only Dax could hear. "I want you to live with this," he whispered. "With knowing you're not untouchable. With knowing I could have ended you, and I didn't. You're not in control anymore." Dax flinched like he'd been struck anyway. Then Damon turned. He walked away, leaving the hallway in complete silence. But it wasn't over. Security flooded the school within minutes. Administrators shouted over the intercom, locking down the building. Someone finally decided it was time to act. They cornered Damon near the main office. "Get on the ground." Guns drawn. 6 officers. Too much for a single boy, bruised and tired. He didn't resist. He just dropped to his knees, hands on his head, eyes glazed over. When they handcuffed him, he didn't speak. But the students watched. Some with awe, some with guilt, and some with tears. Meanwhile, Ayanna woke up in her hospital bed. Her mother was asleep in a chair beside her. "Where's Damon?" she whispered. But no one had an answer. The holding cell was cold and too bright. Damon sat alone on a metal bench, his hands cuffed in front of him. His knuckles were still raw. His hoodie had been taken, and now he sat in a white t-shirt smeared with blood that wasn't his. The officers hadn't asked many questions. They didn't need to. The videos were already all over the internet. Teen goes berserk in school hallways. Student attacks classmates after sister hospitalized. Violence erupts at local high school. Where were the adults? Reporters were already waiting outside the precinct. He stared at the wall, unmoving. The detective entered, a middle-aged black woman in a gray blazer and tired eyes. She walked in slowly, a folder under her arm, and sat down across from him. "You Damon Carter?" she asked. He didn't answer. "I saw the footage," she said after a moment. "You could have killed one of them." Still no reply. She studied him. "But you didn't." That made him blink. "You stopped." "What?" Damon finally looked up. His voice was hoarse. "Because I'm not like them." The detective tapped her pen against the table. "I'm not gonna lie to you. You're looking at assault charges. Maybe worse. But if there's more to this, if there's something you haven't told us, now's the time." Damon sat back and told her everything. Meanwhile, Ayanna was fully awake now. She sat in her hospital bed with their mother at her side, tears in her eyes. "He protected me, didn't he?" she asked softly. Their mother nodded, wiping her face. The nurse had brought a small TV into the room. Ayanna watched the news segment play. The boy is seen walking calmly through the school after attacking 3 students. Eyewitnesses say the incident may have been retaliation for a prior altercation involving his younger sister. The school has refused to comment on previous bullying allegations. Students described Damon as quiet and kept to himself. One classmate said, "He always looked like he was carrying something heavy." Ayanna stared at the screen. He was. At school, the mood had shifted. The same kids who once laughed with Dax now kept their heads down. A mural of Ayanna appeared overnight, a soft drawing taped to a locker with "She deserved better" scrawled beneath it. One teacher spoke out. "I told the principal weeks ago there was something going on. No one listened. But it was too late for that now." Back in custody, the detective finished listening to Damon's story. She closed the folder. "I'll do what I can," she said, standing. As she walked to the door, she hesitated. "You did something terrible," she said without turning. "But I've seen worse from kids who didn't have a reason. Yours was love." Then she left him alone. They put Damon in juvenile detention that night. The walls were thicker there, the windows smaller, and even the air felt tighter, like grief soaked into the concrete itself. He didn't cry. He didn't yell. He just waited. His cellmate was a boy named Theo, thin and twitchy, with darting eyes and scars on his knuckles. On the second night, he asked, "You that kid who went full psycho at Westmont High?" Damon didn't reply. Theo leaned back, hands behind his head. Bet they had it coming. Meanwhile, Ayanna sat on the edge of her hospital bed, swinging her legs slowly. Her curls were flattened from days in bed, and her favorite stuffed bear had a new scar, just like her. She watched the TV every hour, waiting for a mention of her brother. Every time his name was spoken, she whispered it back like a prayer. Damon. But the reports weren't kind. Parents outraged over violent school attack. Victims still recovering after brutal assault. Mother of attacker refuses to speak. It made her stomach hurt. Because they didn't say why. They never did. At school, the silence after the storm still hung heavy. Dax had a black eye and a bruised jaw, and he walked with his head down now. No one dared look at him too long. The whispers had turned. They were bullying his sister. "Yeah, I heard they pushed her. Why didn't the teachers stop it?" No one had answers. And now, the fear shifted, not fear of Damon, but of the truth that they all ignored. In the district office, Superintendent Harris stared at her desk as her assistant handed her the internal reports. Bullying complaints. Ignored. Warnings from teachers. Dismissed. She rubbed her temples. This is going to be bad. In juvie, Damon was allowed one visitor. His mother. She sat across from him, her face pale and exhausted. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then she said quietly, "Ayanna's awake." Damon's eyes watered for the first time since the incident. "She asked about you," his mother continued. "Said you were her hero." "I'm not," he whispered. She reached for his hand, trembling. "You did what you thought you had to. I hate how it happened, but I understand." Damon swallowed. "Am I going to prison?" She didn't answer. She couldn't. The lawyer came next. A public defender named Ms. Calderon. Sharp eyes, fast talker, no nonsense. "They're trying to make an example out of you," she said bluntly. 3 counts of aggravated assault. Video evidence. Public pressure. Damon stared at the floor. "But I'm not here to tell you what you did was right or wrong," she added. "I'm here to make them see why." She leaned forward. "But I need you to speak. Not just to me. In court." Damon hesitated. He had spent his whole life not being heard. The idea of speaking now, of them finally listening, felt dangerous. But maybe, just maybe, it was time. The courtroom was cold and sterile, with that odd hush that settles before a storm. Damon sat beside his lawyer in a suit that didn't quite fit. His hands trembled slightly in his lap, but his face was blank, the same stillness he wore at school, at home, in juvie. Except now, all eyes were on him. On the other side of the room sat the parents of the boys he had attacked. Dax's mother was crying loudly, as if performing grief. Jaden's father kept shaking his head, arms folded. Malik's parents whispered furiously into the ear of their attorney. Ayanna wasn't there. Too much press. Too much pressure. His mother sat quietly in the back, her hands clasped tightly, as if holding her whole world together. The prosecution went first. They showed the videos. They recounted the injuries. They spoke in cold, clinical terms, premeditated violence, a clear threat, a danger to peers. Then they rested their case. And the room turned to Damon. His lawyer stood. "We would like the court's permission for my client to make a personal statement." The judge, an older white man with unreadable eyes, gave a small nod. And just like that, Damon was alone. He rose slowly, walked to the front, stood at the microphone, and looked at them all. "I was never violent before this," he began, voice low but clear. "I never got in fights. Never even yelled at anyone. Not because I was soft, but because I didn't think it would matter. People see what they want to see. And people didn't see me. Some of the jurors shifted in their seats. My sister's 12. She's funny and smart, and she still watches cartoons with me on Saturday mornings. She never did anything to hurt anyone. He paused. They pushed her, laughed when she hit her head. When she was lying there bleeding, no one helped. The school didn't care. The teachers didn't listen. The same kids that tormented me went after her because they knew they could. A long breath. And I broke. I lost it. I'm not proud of what I did. But I'm not sorry I scared them. I'm not sorry I made them feel for 5 minutes what they made us feel for years. Silence. One juror, a middle-aged black woman, wiped her eyes. Damon looked down, then back up. They told me to be quiet, to stay calm, to take the high road. But no one ever punished them. Only me. And maybe that's what broke me. Knowing I could never win unless I became someone else. He stepped back. I'm not that person anymore. But maybe I had to become him for you to finally see me. Then he sat. No one clapped. No one spoke. But something had shifted in the room. For the first time in his life, Damon felt it. They were listening. The next few hours felt endless. Damon was led back to a side room to wait. No handcuffs this time. Just silence. He sat with his hands folded, eyes fixed on the floor, trying to ignore the weight in his chest. He had spoken his truth. Now it wasn't up to him anymore. Back in the courtroom, the jury deliberated. The prosecutor pushed for the maximum sentence. Placement in a juvenile correctional facility until age 18, no parole. Damon's lawyer argued for restorative justice, counseling, community service, and family supervision. The courtroom buzzed with tension. News cameras lined the hallway outside. The public had caught wind of the case, and though headlines were still mixed, a quiet tide was turning. Social media now told a different story. Bullied boy finally snapped. Who's really at fault? School ignored signs. Now a child is in custody. Where were the adults before the violence? Meanwhile, Ayanna was sitting at home in her pajamas, legs curled beneath her. A thick bandage still wrapped her head. On the screen, a live stream showed the empty jury box. She held her stuffed bear tightly. Her mother sat beside her, whispering, "He'll be okay." But Ayanna wasn't sure. Damon didn't seem okay anymore. She wasn't even sure he wanted to come back. 3 hours later, the jury returned. Damon stood as the judge read the verdict. In the matter of aggravated assault, the jury finds the defendant guilty. A long pause. However, due to mitigating circumstances, the court recommends a diversion program in lieu of incarceration. Gasps rippled through the room. The judge raised his voice slightly. The young man before us acted out of pain, fear, and desperation. This court acknowledges the systemic failures that led to this incident. Instead of prison, Damon Carter will enter a rehabilitative program focusing on trauma recovery, anger management, and youth mentorship. He will remain under supervision but will not be transferred to a juvenile correctional facility. Immediate release into the care of his mother is approved. Damon didn't react at first. It took a moment for the words to settle. His fists slowly unclenched. His shoulders sagged. His lawyer placed a hand on his back. "You're going home." As Damon stepped out of the courthouse later that evening, the sun was setting behind the buildings. A small crowd had gathered, not to cheer or protest, just to watch. Some filmed, others stood quietly. Among them, a few students from school. One of the teachers, a boy he didn't know, nodded slowly at him. Damon looked back, expression unreadable. He walked to his mother, who pulled him into a long, trembling hug. And for the first time in days, he closed his eyes. The first night back home felt unreal. Damon lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling. His room looked smaller, older, like it belonged to a different version of himself. A version that hadn't seen the inside of a cell or stood in front of a courtroom telling strangers why he'd snapped. There were still bloodstains on his sneakers, tucked under the bed. He didn't have the strength to clean them. Not yet. From the hallway came a soft knock. Ayanna peeked in, hugging her bear. "Can I come in?" He nodded once. She sat at the edge of the bed, looking at him for a long time. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I should have told you it was getting bad." "It's not your fault," Damon said, eyes still on the ceiling. "You got in trouble because of me." "No," he said, finally turning to face her. "I got in trouble because I stayed quiet too long. They made me believe I had to be quiet." Ayanna reached out and gently took his hand. Her small fingers still had a healing scab. They didn't speak for a while. They didn't need to. The next day, his first session at the youth program began. The building was small, with faded paint and cracked steps, nothing impressive. Inside, a circle of chairs. A few other teens, some older, some younger. One girl with a busted lip. One boy who wouldn't stop shaking his leg. The counselor, a woman named Ms. Jolene, welcomed him without judgment. She didn't ask what he did. She asked how he felt. And Damon didn't know what to say. No one had ever asked him that before. I feel like I can't breathe sometimes, he admitted eventually. Like I'm still back there, in the hallway. In the cell. Ms. Jolene nodded slowly. That's how trauma holds on. Not in the body, in the moments we replay. He didn't answer, but he stayed for the whole session. Back at school, word spread fast. Damon was coming back. Some students were quiet. Some were nervous. Some angry. A few even signed a petition to keep him out. But others remembered what started it all. A new counselor was assigned to the school. A few teachers received disciplinary warnings for failing to report bullying. And the principal, silent through it all, was suddenly on administrative leave. The system had moved, finally. Not fast. Not fully. But it moved. Damon returned the following week. He wore a gray hoodie, head high. His mother walked beside him, hand firm on his back. The halls buzzed when he entered. Some whispered. Some stared. But a few nodded. And Ayanna? She met him at the entrance and walked by his side the whole day. It took weeks, but Damon started to breathe easier. Not always. Not everywhere. But sometimes, like when Ayanna laughed again. Or when Ms. Jolene told him, "You're not your worst day." Or when he woke from nightmares and realized he was safe. The violence inside him hadn't disappeared. But it wasn't running the show anymore. He poured himself into the youth program. At first, he said little. Just listened. Absorbed. Then one day, another boy spoke about wanting to hurt someone. Someone who had done something unforgivable. The room fell quiet. And Damon, slowly, told his story. Not the viral version. Not the courtroom version. The real version. The fear. The silence. The rage that grew in the cracks. He spoke without shaking. And for the first time, someone else said, "That's how I feel too." At school, the atmosphere changed, bit by bit. The mural of Ayanna was now permanent, painted with approval. It had a quote beneath it. "Speak, even if your voice trembles." A few students who had mocked Damon now avoided him. But some, the brave ones, approached. One girl said, "I'm sorry for laughing back then. I didn't know it was that deep." Damon didn't forgive her. Not then. But he nodded. And that was enough. He started writing. Ms. Jolene had given him a journal. He filled pages with memories, flashbacks, poetry he didn't share. One page he tore out and taped above his bed. They broke the quiet boy. But the quiet boy learned to roar. Ayanna healed fast. Kids always do. But she asked deeper questions now. Like, why didn't the school help you before? Or, would they have cared if I was white? Questions Damon didn't always have the answers to. But he never told her to stop asking. That was the difference. The press eventually faded. New stories. New tragedies. Damon was old news. But the story didn't end there. One Thursday evening, Ms. Jolene pulled him aside. "There's a panel next week. Community leaders, school staff, a few parents. They're discussing youth violence and what leads to it. They asked me if I knew someone who could speak." Damon raised an eyebrow. "You want me to tell my story again?" She smiled. "No. I want you to show them what survival looks like." He didn't answer right away. But later that night, he added a new line to the page above his bed. "They didn't silence me. They amplified me." The community panel was packed, a mix of teachers, parents, students, social workers, and local officials. The room buzzed with expectation, skepticism, and hope. Damon stepped up to the microphone, his heart pounding, but his voice steady. "I'm Damon," he began. 2 months ago, I was sitting in a jail cell because I hit 3 kids at my school. I lost control. I broke the law." He paused, scanning the faces. But what no one saw was what led me there. The bullying. The silence. The fear that no one cared. He told them about Ayanna, about the pain, the anger, and the moment he decided to fight back. "This isn't just my story," Damon said. "It's the story of many kids who feel invisible. But we don't want to be broken. We want to be heard. We want to be safe." The room was silent. Some faces glistened with tears. A teacher spoke next, promising new anti-bullying programs and better support. A parent asked questions about how to recognize signs of trauma. Damon looked around, feeling a cautious optimism. Back home, Ayanna hugged him tight after the panel. "You did good," she said softly. He smiled, feeling the weight in his chest lift, if only a little. Because healing wasn't a destination. It was a journey. And for the first time, Damon believed the road ahead might lead somewhere better.